evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, it's been a busy day for President Muhammadu Buhari as he meets with former President Olusegun Obasanjo and Anglican bishops on ways of moving the country forward. International Crisis Group advises the government to change its strategy in fighting insurgency in the country. Board of Trustees of the ZIG Leadership Award names recipients for the year 2015. And the city of Paris is on high alert with flood water at the River Seine due to peak and heavy rains showing no signs of abating across Europe.
And on business news tonight, Nigerian equities closed a day positive but ended the week on the downside.
On sports news tonight, Andy Murray becomes the first British man to reach a French Open final since 1937. He faces title favourite Novak Djokovic.
Gloria Omezokian from Abuja. The National Human Rights Commission advises women to speak up against acts of violence against them.
We begin tonight with what the president has described as the antiques of fraudsters who are demanding money from the federal government to facilitate the release of the Chibok girls. President Muhammadu Buhari says he will resist pressure to yield to such individuals. The president was speaking to Anglican clerics who visited him at the presidential villa led by the primate of the Anglican Church in Nigeria, Archbishop Nicholas Oko. The president also met with former President Olusegun Obasanjo behind closed doors. Our State House correspondent, Chukwuma Onekusi, reports.
The meeting with former President Olusegun Obasanjo behind closed doors centered on his recent trips abroad. He needed to update the president with his findings, especially as it concerns the eminent citizens outing in Papua New Guinea. The former president would not talk to journalists afterwards. President Buhari was also said to have met with former President Goodluck Jonathan over the issues in the Niger Delta. The Anglican bishops were led into the president's office by the Anglican primate. President Buhari's concerns, while rubbing minds with the Anglican clerics, also behind closed doors, include that he will not fall to the antics of fraudsters who have been asking the federal government for money to negotiate the release of the Chibok girls, that he will continue to insist on the authentication of the identities and bona fides of persons or groups claiming to have custody of the girls before entering into negotiations with them. He, however, assured of his commitment to rescue the girls. The president also assured the Anglican clerics that he will give maximum attention to the cleanup of Ogoli land in spite of the economic crunch in the land because of his concern for the welfare and environmental comfort of the people. The primate captures the meeting with the president this week.
We are here to offer our advice as church people from our own perspective to the president on the current national situation. And we are grateful that he appreciates it. We believe that so far it's been okay because of the difficulties of the time. And between now and the next 1 year, we are looking forward to something more direct now, something that we get to the people easily. Because so far, for the first year, it is trying to clear the table, prepare the place, make the work move forward. So we look forward to a better 2016-2017 budget year. That you can see that with the long delay in budget, the issue of pardon, we were not able to begin very easily. So the next one we know will be better. That's why we are talking like in that way. So yeah, it's okay for now, but it could be better. We told him many things, but part of it, we are all looking for solution to issues of the herdsmen. Looking for solution on the issue of vandalism. We are looking for solution on the issue of security in one way or the other, because the people are asking us, and we want to have explanation for the people whom we lead. So that's among other things.
The Anglican Church also pledged to support the federal government to achieve its objectives of improving security and welfare of Nigerians. Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, operator of the SPDC joint venture, has suspended crude oil exports from its Forcados terminal in Delta State. In a statement by the company's spokesperson, Bamidele Odubeson, made available to Channels Television, the company confirmed signs of a leak on the 48-inch Forcados export pipeline at a location between Shoreline and the Forcados terminal in the western Niger Delta, coming on the heels of a reported attack on the pipeline in the early hours of today. The statement reads in part, "We're yet to fully evaluate the potential impact and damage to the pipeline resulting from this latest incident. We have, however, mobilized appropriate oil spill response measures and will be conducting a joint investigation visit to the leak site with relevant stakeholders. We're currently focused on securing the pipeline to protect the environment, given this latest incident and the wider security situation in the Niger Delta. We are unable to determine probable timing of resumption of exports from the Forcados terminal." The Niger Delta Avengers had claimed responsibility for the attack on the pipeline and some others in the last 2 months. Meanwhile, the global conflict prevention group, the International Crisis Group, is urging the federal government to adopt new strategies in its fight against extremist groups. The group is of the view that the standard counterterrorism toolkits have proved insufficient against insurgents. It therefore recommends, among others, that Nigeria invests more heavily in conflict prevention, apply force more judiciously, and open lines of communication with the extremists. The group made this position known in Abuja at the launch of a report on violent extremism and modern conflicts around the world. Our correspondent, Omelogo Nadi, reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari.
On Thursday, May 2nd, 2016, the federal government launched the Ogoniland Cleanup Project as recommended in the United Nations Environment Programme UNEP report of 2009. Great step, many Nigerians say, but the Global Conflict Prevention Group, International Crisis Group ICG, says this step ought to have been taken by governments years back, as that would have prevented the series of crises emanating from that region. The ICG, in its recent report on violent extremism around the world, says the Nigerian government also missed a strategic opportunity to de-escalate the security crisis in the country when it refused to dialogue with the Boko Haram insurgents following the 2009 Maiduguri crackdown. The report recommends heavier investment in conflict prevention, judicious use of force, which it insists is no true solution, and developing viable plans to be implemented once militants are ousted.
If we do not have a plan, a viable plan from what comes next after reconquest, then maybe it's not actually worth spending the resources and the effort and spending the legitimacy as well of reconquering, because reconquering is a difficult task.
In the last part, when we talk about invest in conflict prevention, it's also invest in improving governance, invest in more inclusive governance, invest in reform, invest in doing things better in a different way.
Beyond the recommendations is the belief that solutions to conflicts must be rooted in inclusive political processes with rule of law and human rights respected.
Political exclusion and social marginalization are some of the most central causes of violent extremism. We are convinced of the necessity to engage in peace promotion and in human security activities in the most inclusive way possible.
This report, launched with the support of the Swiss Embassy in Nigeria, draws from the group's field-based bottom-up analysis of violent extremism spread around 5 continents of the world, with lessons drawn from over 40 countries, showing the key issues that governments fighting extremism ought to focus on now. Omelongo, Nadi Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, is our discussion on the situation in the Niger Delta region. Our guest tonight is the Chief of Civil Military Relations in the Nigerian Army, General Nicholas Rogers. He'll be joining us from Abuja. Also, Chairman and Chief Executive of the Channels Media Group, Mr. John Momo, is named recipient of the 2015 ZIC Leadership Award. Do stay with us.